Faut pas que j'oublie ma
Hello everybody, welcome for the 6th episode of ChatGPT Tax. Today we welcome Romain Boisset from Tikehau and we will talk about tax structuring. Romain, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. So very happy to be with you today, guys. So my name is Romain Boisset. I'm a tax director at Tikehau Capital, a global asset manager and investment company. So I've been working at Tikehau for 6 years now, and I was previously a tax lawyer at Clifford Chance. So I mean, as an internal function, my main role at Tikehau is just to cover all the tax matters, and in particular the tax structuring aspect, whether at fund level or at investment level.
Thank you. What have been your key challenges in the fund tax structuring or deal tax structuring, and what do you see as becoming the next phase of development of the structuring going forward, both from an investor's perspective and from, say, a fund perspective?
We want to ensure that each time we are structuring a fund or a deal, I mean, that works from a tax standpoint, that's efficient, but also from an operational standpoint, from a legal standpoint, a regulatory standpoint. And I mean, sometimes, yeah, we have to be sure that everyone is fully aware of that.
So, Romain, you're a global player. You operate in various jurisdictions. You have various asset classes, various investors. What are the main elements that you consider when setting up a new fund? Let's say main tax elements, obviously.
I mean, I would say it's more a global view on how we structure that, because obviously the tax aspects are important, but we would also consider the other regulatory legal aspect. So we usually ask first to the investment team and to the project team what would be the targeted investors, because we know that some investors have some preferences in terms of structuring. They are more familiar with some structure. So I mean, we are very happy to use Luxembourg structure because that structure very most of the international investors are used to Luxembourg funds, so that's very easy to onboard them because they are, I mean, we don't have to spend too much time explaining a specific structuring. So this is the first point we are discussing.
That's very interesting. So you now have like something like 15 people on the ground. You're progressively moving to Luxembourg, but what type of structure, what type of fund are you implementing in Luxembourg? Is there a specific strategy? Can you tell us more about it?
Sure. So, I mean, all of our strategy are based in Luxembourg right now. I mean, we have private equity, we have private debt, real estate, and I mean, our main flagship funds are located in Luxembourg already. And now, and just to continue the discussion on the structuring, but each time we are discussing about a new deal, a new fund, we try to see whether Luxembourg could allow some very fitted, let's say, funds or project. I would say, for instance, for the securitization vehicle, this is something we are used to work with, and same, I mean, we did some continuation fund, and each time we are working on a new vehicle for co-investment fund, for feeders. I mean, usually we use Luxembourg a lot because, again, I mean, that's I would say that's a demand from international investors, and yeah. So I mean, really focusing on Luxembourg a lot, and all the team here in Luxembourg. I mean, we have many people from the legal side, the ops side. That's very easy to manage such fund from Luxembourg.
And for example, when will you determine when you use a tax opaque fund or when you use a tax transparent fund, a CSP, etc.? Are there a basis of consideration that you have in mind each time you need to select the type of vehicle?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would say that's mainly depend on the strategy, because, for instance, for private debt, we would look specifically in terms of tax opacity, because that would, have an effect directly on the structure, on the investment, on the performance of the fund. So we, for private debt, we use, I would say, no, sorry, I would not say that. But we usually ensure that we have some tax opaque fund, because that's always easier, obviously, for attached to purposes.
Obviously, yeah.
But we are also able to manage, because that's, let's say, easier. That's most, that provide most simplicity for investors using Luxembourg SCSP, for instance, for feeder funds, or when we are working for some SMAs, because investors would prefer such kind of vehicle.
And you have a lot, you mentioned that too. I think now we also have a bit more comfort with the new circular that came out, basically, especially if you're under product law. So those are the elements. And you mentioned also debt funds, you can have the benefit of certain treaties. So I guess all those elements you keep in mind, you analyze when you put up a fund.
Yeah, of course. And we also change, just speaking maybe on more technical aspects, but on the fund documentation, obviously, we take into consideration all those new rules, just to ensure that, all the investors are protected in case of hybridity from, coming from a specific investors, also for a Pillar 2 aspect. So yes, we ensure, and we before launching a new fund, we cover all those aspects, and we are working with our lawyers, obviously, on that.
How much consideration are you effectively putting into the deal structuring side of things when setting up the funds? Are you considering already all kind of deals that are going to go through and the type of assets and location, or are you more focusing on the global picture and figuring out on the spot when the deal comes the exact complexity on the contributions or repatriation?
Yeah, we try to have a lean approach just for simplicity purposes. We will rely, on the strategy of the fund, so we will know more or less in which jurisdiction the fund will be able to invest. And based on that, and based on our experience, we will see whether we need to put in place an aggregator, or if you can just do some vertical investment for each new deal. So it's a really, I would say, a case by case, but again, the main idea will be the simplicity of the structure.
And then obviously you maybe have investors that will dictate a specific, a new vehicle or a new or certain elements to adapt in the structure. So I guess you face that as well.
Yeah, we have most of the international investors that are requesting some, provision or specific requests inside letters, in particular in the structuring itself. Just ensuring that we will not invest in a specific country, or we will ensure that the structure will have a sufficient substance. And all those topics, the investors are very, I would say, demanding. So we have a lot of discussion with LPs on this topic, and more, I would say.
And do you see a difference in let's say, in what investor requests depending on where they are located? Do you find, for example, that what is requested from US investors varies from what is requested from European investors, for example?
Yeah, we see, let's say, more experience from US-based investors, and they have obviously some specific requests in relation to their own status, because that may trigger some, let's say, some consequences. They are requesting how the fund will be treated from a US standpoint, for instance. And for other investors, we also see some specific demand in terms of reporting. I'm thinking, for instance, about German investors. So yeah, we face all those topics in discussion with investors.
And this is crystallized in the side letters, I guess, most of the time, whether for the fund or the side co-invest. How easy and how long are they taking those discussions?
It will really depend. It will depend whether the investor have their own, let's say, tax or legal teams, or whether they rely on external advisors. Sometimes I would say that's more difficult just to let's say, discuss with their lawyers, and internally maybe we try to discuss in a very smooth approach, just to explain that our structure are just to explain the structure, I would say, because more and more they are requesting a kind of side letter template without taking into consideration exactly what is our fund, what the fund strategy. So we try to explain the fact that maybe some of the provisions are not relevant, because that's not at all what the fund is doing.
Makes sense. I think we have all faced this type of situation. It also depends, I guess, whether the investor has been here for long and knows you very well, or if it's a new one and there is a period of time where you need to start to know each other, and that takes a bit more time to onboard.
And also maybe one last question from my side is, do you sometimes have investors that will, for example, dictate not only some tax elements at the level of the fund, but on the underlying structure? Will you have investors that say, I want an SPV for those kind of investment, or not?
Sometimes they request that.
Yes.
The thing is, we consider that we are managing the fund, so we are in charge of the tax compliance of the fund and the tax structuring of the fund. So we try to discuss with them, just explaining that the structure we are proposing works well, and would not trigger any specific tax risk. Again, we are always very happy to discuss with the investor, with the lawyers, but usually, that came finally, very easy in terms of we are trying to explain what we are doing, and there is no more specific request. Just another point you mentioned on the fact that investors are coming again in our new fund, so the fact that they are used to a specific structure, about the way we do some investment. Yes, for sure, that's easier just to, in the future, because again, they are familiar with the way we are working, we are structuring deals. So, and also in terms of, when we change for instance, because we did it in the past, the legal form of the fund, or the tax status of the fund, obviously you have to explain to the investor, in particular the investors that are coming again in the new vintage.
Why you change?
Exactly, why you change that, and if there is some reason, and which are commercial reason or strategic reason, regulatory aspect, obviously and understand that, but I think that's that's our duty to do that, to explain to the investors what are we doing, and why are we doing that in the interest of the LPs.
Thank you very much for all of this. And for all of you that are following us, this was the 6th episode of our Chat GP Tax. Stay tuned.